What's up, guys? Back today with another much requested video comparing the New Balance 1080 V13 to the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25. Now, since I got the 1080, this has been one of the most requested videos. First, I compared it to the Triumph, and I had a lot of people asking about comparing it to the Gel-Nimbus. So, in this video, I'm going to do a breakdown of how both of these ride, how the foam feels underfoot, do a little bit of a durability projection on the 1080, and I'll let you know which one of these is going to be best for you and your rotation. If you haven't checked out the Running Shoe Matcher tool yet, go to runningshoematcher.com. This is a really cool tool I built that matches you with the best shoes for you based on your goals and preferences. You can go in there, you'll answer 5 questions about what type of shoe you're looking for, if you want a daily trainer or race day shoe or a tempo shoe, whether you like your shoes soft or firm, and we'll match you with the best shoe for you. So it's live right now and it's free. You can check it out at runningshoematcher.com. So quick overview of the Nimbus here. This is Asics' most stacked, relaxed, easy running shoe. Comes in with a heel stack of 41.5 and a forefoot stack of 31.5 for an 8mm drop. It's priced at $160 and it weighs 10.2 ounces for that US men's sample size 9. The main compound in the midsole here is the FF Blast Plus Eco Foam, which is an EVA blend. And we also have a gel unit in the heel here, which is supposed to absorb some of that impact when striking in the back area of the shoe. Now the New Balance is a bit lighter and it's a bit less stacked. It has a heel stack of 38mm and a forefoot stack of 32mm for a 6mm drop. It's $5 more expensive at $165, and it's also considerably lighter at around 9.1 ounces versus 10.2 for the Nimbus. Both of these shoes are in the max cushion segment. New Balance does have the More V4, which on paper is a bit closer to the Gel Nimbus, but with the recent addition of the 1080 V13, this went up in stack height, eating into that More V4's area. So these are going to be the two current model version shoes most similar from the respective brands. Now the midsole of this is the FF Blast Plus Eco Foam, which is an EVA blend. It is very soft underfoot, one of the softest compounds on the market. When it was first out of the box, this was very squishy and a pleasant feeling type of soft. As it's progressed through its life, it's lost a little bit of that luster, and it's now going into the quicksand era, where when I'm running, I'm kind of sinking into that shoe. I'm not getting as much energy return. Still a really solid midsole compound, but it's not going to be the most durable. Up here in the forefoot, there is a rocker here, which I've found helps the shoe pick up the pace a little bit more than some other max cushion shoes, but this midsole is definitely not going to be encouraging a fast ride. Now, New Balance 1080 V13 uses the Fresh Foam, which is also an EVA blend. It has a little bit more energy return than this Nimbus does. There isn't as much of a rocker in this shoe right here, which is one thing to note. So if you do like rockered shoes, then Nimbus is going to be that choice. But because this is less stacked, it feels a little bit more natural, also a little bit of a faster option because you're not going to be weighed down with all that foam. Now, in terms of the ride, the big thing that's going to influence the ride difference between these two is that difference in stack height and that difference in weight. With almost 1 ounce reduction in the 1080 versus the Nimbus, you can really feel that lightness on foot. 1080 feels like a lot lighter weight of a shoe, feels like a lot less cumbersome than the Nimbus does. With this above 40mm stack height and the Nimbus here, it feels pretty awkward and clunky for even walking around, feels a little bit too heavy, and it feels really awkward and clunky for anything but the slowest of runs. Now, I've done a lot of running in the past week in the 1080 V13, most in that aerobic range and that recovery range, and it feels okay in that mid 7-minute pace range for me, which is about a minute 15 per mile slower than marathon pace. Nimbus almost feels like 2 minutes per mile slower than marathon pace, is its only zone where it feels like it's at home, which for me means the ride of this is too niche to be a daily trainer. I think with the 1080 you can get away with using this as a daily trainer if you prefer a softer ride, whereas the Nimbus is more of that true recovery shoe where you only want to use it when your legs are feeling super beat up. Now, these are both very stable shoes. The New Balance 1080 is a bit lower to the ground, so if you don't like the feeling of max cushion shoes, then this is probably going to be the better stability option. They both have really wide bases out back, so they're using inherent stability. The Nimbus is going to be a bit wider. It's also going to be a bit heavier, as I mentioned, so it feels clunky. Now, if we look at the way the back of these shoes are contoured here, the Nimbus has a lot more of that foam hanging off the back, which means it doesn't really make it unstable, but it does make it a lot more unnatural feeling than this 1080. Again, going to be a bit lighter and a bit easier to maneuver around on the foot. Now, in terms of the uppers, both of these have really soft, stretchy uppers where padding and comfort and just a nice coddled experience is what the doctor is going to order up. On the Nimbus here, you can see up close, there's this nice knit material all around. I put a lot of miles on this, so we're starting to see some wear and tear and some discoloration here, but it's really soft. It's got a nice stretchy tongue, and there's a decent bit of padding around the back of the foot. Take a look at the recent 1080 that just came out. We're going to see some of that similar soft knit material and a ton of padding around the back of the shoe. I think this might be one of my favorite areas of the shoe. All this padding in the back, all this padding in the heel collar. And we also see a super padded tongue. That's a big difference between the 1080 and the Nimbus. The 1080 has this padded tongue, whereas the Nimbus has the thinner, stretchy tongue. I don't have any issues with the lockdown with either of these shoes. I have to give it to the 1080 for being just a tiny bit more comfortable on the foot. Feels a little bit more padded than the Gel-Nimbus here. Heading down to the outsole on these, you'll see they have a similar amount of rubber. I haven't used the 1080 yet in the wet weather. The Nimbus was okay in wet pavement. It was not fantastic. It was not terrible, but both of the grip of these is going to be solid, as you would expect for a road, daily trainer, recovery type of shoe. If we're thinking about durability, these softer foam type of shoes don't usually have the most durability in the midsoles. That's probably when you're going to have to retire them. I've retired the Nimbus at around 270 to 300 miles, even though the outsole rubber has tons of life left. This midsole is just giving out on me. It's not giving me a lot of energy return yet, which is why I actually started incorporating the 1080 into my rotation. One area of concern here is this 1080 has about 40-50 miles and you're already starting to see some abrasion of this foam here because they chose to go for form over function. They went for the looks over the utility and they didn't cover all of the foam on the bottom here, which was a big mistake. I project the 1080 for me is going to get that similar 300 mile mark as the Gel-Nimbus. I don't think I'm going to get a ton more miles out of this shoe just because with these softer foam shoes, that's the point that they usually give up. Even with PIBA based shoes like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, I can only really get to 320, 340 miles before they start to go dead on me. Now, in terms of who these are best for, these are both going to be neutral shoes for runners who like softer foam experiences. However, the 1080 is a shoe that you can do daily training miles in. I do think it picks up the pace a little bit better if you want to go maybe down to that marathon pace range for some of your runs or you're doing some strides. The 1080 is going to be a better, more natural feeling option for that faster pace. For me, the Nimbus really felt at home at 90 seconds to 2 minutes per mile slower than my marathon pace. I wouldn't want to do any type of up-tempo work in this at all. They're both very comfortable shoes, but the 1080 is going to be a bit more of a well-rounded running shoe for daily training and all other sorts of runs than just the Nimbus recovery running style of shoe. Alright guys, so there you have it. That is my comparison of the 1080 and the Nimbus. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know which comparison you want to see next with the 1080, and I'll see you tomorrow.